Welcome to Off the Shelf. I'm your host, Yvonne Wolf. Today, our special guest is returning author Danial Jiwani. He is here with two of his books, Buffett's Two-Step Stock Market Strategy and Pick Stocks That Go Up. Welcome back, Daniel.
Thank you, Yvonne.
Well, since you were here last and you were writing a book from high school, Surviving AP Econ, now you're advising investors on stock market.
Yep.
Wow, you've been very productive. Tell us what happened during these years.
Yeah, so when I was last on your show, I wrote Surviving AP Econ. The goal with that book was to help a lot of students in AP microeconomics learn, how to pass the AP exam. But I saw that my book was helping a lot of people, and I saw that I was having a lot of positive impact with that, and I wanted to do something bigger. I found that I was also passionate about finance, and a much bigger market than AP economics students was investors worldwide. There are 30 million investors worldwide. So I decided to write a book on investing, Buffett's two-step stock market strategy. That ended up being super successful. It ended up selling 50, 60,000 copies. It's translated in a bunch of languages. I don't remember how many, to be honest.
No way, of
Yeah.
course. It's an international market, right? The
Yeah.
audience is- So that leads us to the next question. How did you decide on your audience? You knew this audience was going to be big.
Yeah, for sure. I think there were two things I was looking at. The first is that I wanted to move into a big market. Investors, there's 30 million lay investors, so that was clearly a really big market. And the second thing is that I wanted to do something that I was really passionate about. It's very hard to be successful in any business venture if you're not really passionate about it. And growing up, I was always really passionate about investing. I would always watch CNBC alongside my dad when I was eating breakfast, getting ready for school.
That is definitely your specialty and your passion. And how do you write a how-to book? It seems like you're an expert now on the how-to.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of keys. One is really figuring out what are the key lessons that are really going to change the lives of your target audience, right? So when I was writing Pick Stocks That Go Up, when I was trying to pick which lessons and chapters to write, I was really asking myself the question, what are the lessons that really changed my life from an investment standpoint? And I figured if those lessons change my life, there's a good chance that they'll change the lives of the reader.
Well, Daniel, what did you discover about yourself writing these two books together?
I think the main thing that I discovered is that I'm willing to take a lot of risks. One thing that's really clear about the publishing industry is that it's not an industry where it's really easy to make money. 99% plus of books end up failing, not making any money at all. Like on Amazon, for example, there's something called the bestsellers ranking.
Yes.
It shows you where your book ranks relative to other books. And there's about 3 million, it says there's basically about 3 million-ish books on Amazon. And if you're even in the bottom 2,900,000, you're not making any money at all, less than $10 per day. So you really need to be in the top 0.01% of books to actually even have a chance of making
amazing.
a decent amount of money.
Right. That competition is monstrous. Okay, so now you mentioned something about you being offered to be published through a publisher and top 5 publishers, and you turned it down? Okay, that's usually the other way around. Usually authors are chasing after publishers. So can you tell us about that kind of decision that you made?
Yeah, sure. So it ultimately came down to the fact that although it was a really good publisher, one of the top 5 big 5 publishers out there, it really came down to the fact that I wanted a lot more control over the marketing strategy, the cover design, the title, and I feel like if I had more control over that, I could come up with a strategy that's differentiated from the big 5 publishers and end up selling more books that way.
Okay, so how did they find you? Because how did they know about you, this big publisher?
The Buffett's Two-Step Stock Market Strategy book ended up having a lot of success. It's always on the top 10 to 20 books on Amazon about stock market investing. So their finance division consistently monitors it. They picked up on the fact that I was one of the only self-published authors at the top of the stock market investing category.
Wow. So, so they had the pulse on the big sellers.
Yeah.
And then, okay, so tell us a little bit then, how do you differentiate your marketing? Do you have your own choice when you go through Amazon marketing services?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things that we do differently.
Hmm.
One is that I really emphasize the cover and title design. So, or cover design and the title creation. For example, with the cover design, I ended up finding the cover designer who designed books for people, celebrities like Khloe Kardashian and Kim Kardashian. And that person worked on my cover design, and they're really talented. So that was one differentiating point.
Hmm.
Another differentiating point was that I ended up testing about 30 to 40 different titles on Amazon before picking pick stocks that go up, actually.
Yeah.
And that's something you can't do with a traditional publisher. You have to pick one title, and once it launches, that's the title you're going with. So that was kind of two ways I differentiated from myself from a marketing standpoint.
Hmm.
And then on the Amazon ads part that you mentioned,
Hmm.
one of the things that I can do is that I can much greater by going with myself, I can really control what is the Amazon advertising strategy on a day-to-day basis. So for example, I can decide how much exactly I'm paying for each keyword for my ads to show on a
Oh,
day-to-day basis. And that's something that a big five publisher cannot do. They cannot be as responsive to the market in that way.
that's true. Then you are, yeah, you're looking at like peak times and days, perhaps.
Yeah, we're basically looking at how much do ads cost to buy on a given day
Hmm.
and which ads make sense to buy given how we know it will likely perform.
So you shop for ads like you buy a stock.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, that's pretty amazing. Wow. So when you mentioned you can test the title, you tested 30 to 40 titles of your book. How do you do that on Amazon?
I mean, it's really simple actually. The way you would do it is that you would really soft launch the book on Amazon without doing a big publicity campaign around it.
Okay.
So put the book on Amazon, run a couple of ads for it, see what the conversion rates, the click through rates are, how many
Mm.
people are buying. And if it's doing well relative to my prior book, you know it's a pretty good title and
Yes.
cover.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I think anything with Buffett's name, right,
Yeah.
is going to fly.
Yeah, yeah.
People are going to follow. Okay. So then, are you on the Amazon bestseller list?
Yeah.
And do they find put that for title on your book, or you approach them, or how does that? How do you become that?
Yeah, the way you technically become an Amazon bestseller is by being the highest selling book in a particular category.
Mhm.
So my book is a bestseller in several different categories. For
I
example, on
see.
how to value companies.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
my Buffett book, for example, goes into really the math of how do you determine what is the exact price to buy a stock, and it's a bestseller in that category.
I see. Okay. Well, that is very valuable information for our struggling authors out there, I think, because so many of the authors who come to our program have their books on Amazon, but maybe they don't know how to market and how to use the technology.
Mhm.
Well, so what do you enjoy the most about your preparation work?
I think it's a lot of the reflection that goes on. Because
Hmm.
in order to write a book, I have to reflect on what has worked for me, what are the key lessons I learned. And in that process, I become a whole lot smarter about finance and investing.
And you have really thought a lot about how you pick them, right? How you
Yeah,
pick them.
100%. Done a lot of
So,
thinking about how to pick stocks, a lot of thinking and research on what works in the markets and what
mhm.
doesn't work.
But when you have an international audience, I guess I'm curious about this. Other markets don't have the same access to American stocks, let's say,
100%,
right?
yeah.
So how, when your book, how does a translator give them that advice, I guess?
That's a really good question. So, the good thing about my books is that my books really focus on investment philosophy.
Mm.
I
Hmm.
studied the investment philosophies of a lot of the greatest investors: Warren Buffett, Bill Ackman, Howard Marks. And investment philosophies don't change based on the market you're in, whether you're in China, Vietnam,
Right.
Malaysia,
Hmm.
US, UK. The investment approach you take stays the same. So my books luckily can be translated across different markets.
I see. You're talking about industries, perhaps, right? Then what are the industries that keep an economy alive rather than a particular stocks?
Yeah, I mean, what I'm really focused on is what is the approach you take to decide whether to make an investment? That approach doesn't change. The fact that you look for a good company, you buy it at an attractive price, that you want a lot of upside, and that you want to manage risk, those things don't change no matter what country you're in.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
true. Well, so your book, do you um, print it in so many copies, or is it what they call a print per
It prints on demand.
demand? So that's still true
Yeah.
for your book. Okay. And then, so what are some reader responses you have received?
Lots of positive responses, especially with the new book, Pick Stocks That Go Up. One thing actually that I noticed with Pick Stocks That Go Up is that every single review really says that this one chapter, they always pick out a particular chapter and say, this one changed my life.
Wow.
This particular chapter changed my life. And that was something I kind of knew would happen actually when writing the book. The reason, as I mentioned earlier, is that I was writing the book in order to, by trying to pick out lessons that really changed my life.
Mm-hmm.
When I did that, I was really picking out the lessons that were a big epiphany for me.
Yeah.
When I really read it, I said, wow, this is going to change my investment career forever. So I noticed that in the reviews, people were having those same realizations with particular chapters
Mm-hmm.
when they read the book.
Wow, that connection,
Yeah,
right? How does that feel? With millions of people, that connection.
it's really good, really good.
Yeah, it's so amazing to have that. I think that's a dream of every author, to make a connection with somebody you don't even know, you never met.
Yeah. And what's really nice, actually, my favorite part is that when readers email you saying, hey, I'm reading your book. I really love it. Thank you for writing it. It makes
Oh,
my day, honestly.
oh yes, I think so. That is every writer's dream. So are you have a Instagram channel? Do you?
Yes.
And do you make videos, I mean marketing for yourself?
Occasionally, yeah. I think the big added value for Instagram is really crafting the way you want to be perceived in the world.
Mm,
Because if you think about it, the first thing that people in the media will do when they Google your name is look on your social media profiles.
true.
So if you ever want to get featured in any sort of media outlet, you need to have a persona on Instagram, on YouTube, or whatever that really sells yourself well.
And that's the approach you did to on the Instagram. Yeah,
100%.
I took a look. So you look very professional.
Thank
So
you.
do you have paste marketing material, or what they call it, posts, or do you just um, have someone help you with it, or
I do all the Instagram stuff on my own.
Mhm.
I think that these days a lot of social media marketing is in such a way that you can do it on your own.
Mhm.
I think you need to learn a thing or two, obviously, but it can be done on your own.
Do you set up a background or scene for it? Because some people do,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
they go to a place that they want to, they want to use a backdrop.
Yeah, I have professional lighting in my house, a couple of studio lights, a camera. I actually have a professional camera, but I still decide to use my iPhone camera because it comes out as pretty much the same quality, and the iPhone one just happens to be easier.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
I find also that when you film something on your phone or picture, it's easier to use the enhancement right function
Yeah,
than
yeah.
you do it yourself on the iPad. So I just find it incredible what we can do at our fingertips from our phone.
Yeah.
Well, you have other books you've been writing since the last time we've seen you. Can you tell us about the outlier investors?
Yeah, sure. So I wrote this other book called Outlier Investors. It's another book on investing I wrote in college in about 3 months. So it's the fastest book I ever
Oh
wrote.
my goodness, three
Yeah,
months. I
because
think that is a record for our for our
yeah,
viewership too.
because the thing is, I had to write it between the summer break actually. So I only had a 3 month deadline to be practical. But what's really cool about this book is that it ended up being read by Howard Marks and Bill Ackman. And those are two really famous investors. They're both billionaires.
Hmm.
I think Howard Marks has an investment firm that manages $200 billion, Bill Ackman at $20 billion. And
Hmm.
they're both legends that I really talk about a lot in my book. So I was really happy when they read it.
That's incredible, right? To speak to your idols, or your icons in your fields, and of
Yeah.
course, yeah. And then you have this in Japanese, you told me. And how did that happen? Did you approach someone in Japan to get your book published in Japanese?
Yeah, actually, a couple publishers in a lot of different countries like China, Japan, Thailand, Malaysia reached out to me to have all my books published in those respective languages.
So they find you,
Yeah,
and
they
then they,
see.
yeah.
Yeah, the way they find it is that they just see it's selling well in the American market. So
Yes.
since that's the case, they assume it's going to sell well in the overseas market.
Okay, and then are you involved in any way and translation or cover?
I like to defer to the judgment of the foreign translator and the foreign publisher because they understand the nuances of the local market much better than I do.
Yeah, so what's attractive to them on the cover and so forth?
100% because the cover design philosophy for China versus the US is totally different. The way you would title a book is totally different in the US versus China. The way it's distributed is totally different.
Yeah. And so I wonder, when you have your book, Outliers Investors, if um, famous people have read it, do you put that on the cover or on the, so and so have?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
We abuse, especially for my following book, Pick Stocks That Go Up. We actually use the fact that hey, these famous people have read his prior book. You should read his new book.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really big selling point for a lot of readers out there.
Yes, I see. And have you, I don't know, is a question for you, but AI, have you used AI in any way to help you organize a book or anything like that?
I haven't. I actually wrote the book before AI became quite popular.
Yes.
So, but looking back into whether I would use AI today
Mm-hmm.
to help me write the book, the answer would probably be no, if I'm being 100% honest. I think there's a lot to gain for the reader if the human writes the book because there's a certain way that the human writes that AI can't write. They can write with a certain style that I don't think can be replicated with AI very well as of right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you write with AI, you kind of get a book that's very generic sounding,
Right.
one that doesn't have a personality, and that really kills a lot of the value for the audience.
Oh, I agree. I would think that those key chapters that you put so much effort into reflecting on your own experience, that connection you make with people could not come from in generic AI
Yeah.
consolidation, perhaps. Well, let's see. So, what are some ways are you seeking podcast programs or something like that to be invited by specialized topic, these people who are in the investing world or channels?
Yeah, so I could talk a little bit about that. So basically, yes, we're aiming to do a lot of podcasts right now. But one thing that podcasts want to see is that you are being covered by basically every media outlet, right? They don't want to bring in an author who's like no prior media coverage, if you know what I mean.
Hmm.
So right now we're doing a pretty big, I can't tell you a lot about it, but we're doing a pretty big partnership with a lot of media outlets to do a big publicity blitz around my book.
Hmm.
And then once that goes live, we're going to leverage the PR publicity from that in order to start pitching a lot to podcasts.
Well, I think it's just entirely different, um, I guess, different approach than traditional media.
Yeah, and I would say that I know there's this famous book called The Psychology of Money out there. I actually know one of the publicists who had promoted that book. That book has sold, I think, 6 million copies right now.
Hmm.
It's one of the highest selling books in the entire US, probably in the top 100 for sure. And that publicist behind that book told me is that podcasts were really the single biggest driver of book sales for
Yeah.
that book.
Hmm.
So I think going to podcasts for all authors is one of the biggest things that they can do right now.
Yeah, I just realized that podcasts are just so much more niche or much more targeting the audience, your particular audience, in any field. So that would seem like the place to go for
Yeah.
for your books.
I mean, if you really want to promote a book and have it sell well, the end goal is to really dominate the media coverage. So you want to get as much media coverage as possible in all avenues:
I
social
see.
media, podcast, TV, print, digital, really as much as possible.
Mhm.
And the reason podcasts are really good is that they can get your story out there into the world, right? You do a podcast that has a couple of benefits that can be reclipped onto social media,
Mhm.
Twitter, Instagram. And so by doing a podcast, you're also covering
Oh.
some other media platforms. And then when you share your story on a podcast, that story that you share might be good for an article. And then for when you share a really good story on a podcast, one that makes you sort of larger than life,
Hmm.
another podcast will say, "That's a really good story, and I want my audience to hear that."
Ah, I
So
see.
podcasting, I think, unlike other media channels, can have a lot of sort of extended benefits, so to
Yes,
speak.
or ripple effects, or yeah,
100%.
reusability.
Hmm.
So very interesting. And well, what connects you to Glenview?
Yeah, I was actually a student of Glenbrook South High School.
Yes.
I still have a lot of teachers from there who inspired me today, like John Blix, Rosanna
Oh,
McManaman,
yes.
or Josh Koo, who was my biology teacher.
Mm-hmm.
I think they inspired me to work hard and be a good person growing up,
Mm-hmm.
and they taught me a lot, and I still remember them to this day.
Yeah, I think John Blake's retired last year or so.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so but he's a great guy. You know, well, of course, we were just talking before the program that I was a GBS teacher about the same time you were there.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so that was a great place to be. And what kind of advice do you have for other people, someone who might be looking at writing a how-to book?
I think the single biggest piece of advice is to build your audience. This is really an interesting piece of advice coming from me because I was talking to several PR professionals the past weeks, and what we noticed is that I'm one of the few authors who wrote a book and sold a lot of copies without having a pre-existing audience. I just
Mm.
wrote my book, put it on Amazon, and it ended up selling a lot of copies because the title and cover and content were really good.
Mhm.
But for most authors, what you really want to do is have that audience first. You want to try to almost become a celebrity within your niche so that you have an audience to sell your books to.
I see. So your name attracts the people who read the book, who want to buy the book.
Yeah, for any nonfiction,
Hmm.
any how to book,
Hmm.
people are buying the book for the person who wrote it.
Yes, there's credibility behind it. But
100%.
now you build to that. You will become a name that people look for. I
100%,
think
yeah.
so. Right? So you're not too late to build your audience.
Yeah.
I think so.
And I think another thing that really helps for building your audience is having almost an exaggerated personality almost.
Hmm.
On reality TV shows, a lot of the producers will tell the not actors but the people on the show that you want to exaggerate your real personality a little bit
Hmm.
because the media always likes people who are almost like characters from that aren't real,
I
if that
see.
makes sense.
Yeah, but I don't know. You gotta take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
I don't think I would trust my life with with those people on reality shows.
That's true.
Well, do you have a quote that you want to leave everyone with?
Just do it from Nike. I just believe if you want to write a book, you should just do it.
Well, thank you very much, Daniel, for coming back.
Thank you so much, Yvonne.
And thank you for watching. Join us next time on Off the Shelf.